Excuse me not having any lighting, but hello. Welcome into the room. This is not a live, but welcome into the room. As I have shared and will continue to share stories of overcoming adversity in my life, stories of how I have, that's my son Elijah saying hi, stories of how I have overcome different barriers in my life, stories on how I have allowed my spiritual life to maneuver me through every trial and tribulation. Many of us in this world hear the word toxic. And when we hear the word toxic, we instantly think, the toxic sign, the three little red triangles, that's instant like poisonous or deadly. How many know that your tongue can be very poisonous and deadly? There's life and death. There's life and death in the power of the tongue. If you don't know what toxicity is, I'm going to share some with you, okay? Toxicity for me, defining it in my life, consisted of verbal abuse, name calling, shaming, blaming, diminished attempt at my success, physical rage, unhealthy addictions, obsessiveness to my belongings or my things or just everything that I have. And it's just not in a personal relationship that I recognize these toxic traits. It was in other relationships that I have experienced in my past. Discouragement, subliminal messages is a very big one. People say stuff without saying it. They can say it in what they give to you. They can say it with body language. Subliminal messages could be given anywhere, anything. You just have to be aware enough to recognize a subliminal message, a subliminal threat, subliminal bullying. That's toxic. A lack, loss, and poverty was toxic to me. Constantly living in lack, constantly living in loss, constantly looking to get by. I didn't like that feeling. And most of us don't. It's very uncomfortable. It's lots of uncertainty, which creates fight or flight modes all the time. Always in panic mode, always looking for the next, making sure you get it or got it. Non-goal oriented. If you're in a relationship, whether it's professional, personal, spiritual, and it's non-goal oriented. For me personally, if it's non-goal oriented, or if it's kids are distracting me. If it's non-goal oriented, that's toxic to me. Because in life, we should always be desiring to grow. It should be a goal to replace, whether it's a small goal or a big goal. Using kids as leverage. In my past, I've had relationships where my ex-spouse told the kids, don't listen to your mom. Or had family and friends that said, don't listen to your mama. Oh, she going crazy. She don't know what she's doing. That's deterring a child from listening to their parent. That's from deterring a child from trusting their parent. Kids don't know what toxicity is unless they're taught or unless they live in it, and then they're able to recognize it. Body shaming was toxic to me. I was being body shamed, therefore I body shamed myself. I felt less than because I was constantly I didn't even hear encouragement with my body. So I body shame. Every time I looked in the mirror, I didn't see something I liked. When I looked in the mirror, I hated myself. And this is while in a relationship with friends, with family, with a lover. Repeated behaviors of aggressiveness. People can be aggressive. Like really aggressive and possessive when it comes to your things. Like I've had a lot of aggressive behavior in my past. But people just, if they can't have me, they can't have nothing. So they try to control everything around me, whether it's my money, my home, materials. Outburst. I used to have outbursts all the time, and I figured out and I learned what triggered me, and I stopped allowing me to outburst. Once I saw the person I was in a relationship with constantly having outbursts and do not know how to control themselves, that's scary. That's emotional instability. Emotional instability is toxicity. And as a mother, as a woman, I don't like that. I don't want my kids around that. I don't want to be in the where it's constantly on edge and don't know how to control your emotions. Don't know how to say I'm sorry. And when you say I'm sorry, it's an action thing, not a word thing. Relationships I was in my past like to see me overwork, just excessively working, just to get by. That did not feel good. I was drowning in that type of working and living. That's taking advantage of my drive, my dedication, and only willing to. I was doing 90% while the other person's doing 10%, and this is just not connected to a personal relationship, but external relationships I had in my past. I realized I was overcompensating too much of my time, too much of my energy, too much of my resourcefulness, too much of just me. When I realized that was toxic for me, I pulled that back. Threats, verbal threats is toxicity. I had a lot of verbal threats over my life to scare me, to stop me, and it did a few times. That's why most of us stay in toxic, most people stay in toxic relationships. Verbal abuse is serious. That does not feel good. And I've had that done most of my life. And I learned, okay, if I don't like the way that feels, what do I need to do? Replace it with something positive. I do my best to make sure I'm not verbal abusing my children, so I don't do what was done to me. That's replacing a toxic behavior. But when you're surrounded by other people, places, and things who don't do things like that, it makes it hard to live. My life has been hard to live because of toxic behaviors and patterns I have been surrounded in. People, places, and things. Not willing to change that behavior. Money and gambling habits. There's times in my ex-relationships where I'm like, dang, where did the money go? There was no explanation. Whether I spent it, whether my past lover spent it, whether I gave it away. That was toxic to me. Not knowing what money management was, not be able to manage money, was toxic to me. Alcohol, porn, greed. Being okay with just getting by. That's toxic. Arguments constantly being on the rise for nothing. Just small arguments. Arguments that make someone sexually aroused. That was not healthy to me. It's not healthy to kids. Now, anytime you recognize something is toxic for you, you remove it. So, just like think about when we're outside or we're in areas, we have emergency helpers that help remove toxic things, or special people that remove toxic things so it doesn't harm the body, that doesn't harm people, doesn't harm animals. Same thing when it comes to our physical and spiritual beings. All these things I just listed were very harmful to my life, harmful to my kids' life. Mind games of constantly going back and forth. I got tired of arguing all the time. Aren't you tired of arguing all the time with your loved one, friend, counterpart, whoever? Most people look for escape. I escaped many times. I would walk away, go to the park, go take the kids somewhere. You get tired of leaving, and you desire and expect change from that person, place, or thing. I was being milked for my resources. My kindness was being taken for a weakness, and that's toxicity. I lost a lot financially like that. Listening to other people's sad stories and rescuing them, losing money right in the middle of it. Toxicity is being stopped. Social media, in person, in a car. Some say, how do you know you're being stopped? When you're seeing the same places, same people, same things. colors, characters, cars. Especially when I have been placed in a situation already, I'm able to identify. That was toxic to me, not being able to let me live, move, and breathe. Your life is your life. My life is my life. And many times something is toxic, we recognize it. We have the power to remove ourselves from it and around it. It took me a long time. I found myself removing many people out of toxic situations only to be living in one myself. And I didn't like that. So over a course of 5 years, I said, you know what do I need to do to not have a toxic life? What did I do? Come up with a safety plan. That's the first thing a therapist will tell you to do. Okay? They ask you, when was the last incident in a toxic relationship, whether it's personal or professional. They ask you what makes you feel threatened, what makes you feel unsafe, physically, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. They do an assessment. So over the course of 5 years, I constantly took assessment of what was hurting my life, what was damaging my soul, what was damaging my spirit, what was damaging my personality. So I created a safety plan, because no longer did I want to be shamed or walking around and self-sabotage when I don't deserve it. So what did I do? Plan after recognizing repeated abuse. If you know what abuse is to you, if you know what toxicity is to you, whether it's physical abuse or emotional abuse, I'll just say physical or mental, because the mental is your emotions, okay? It's connected to your mind. So whether you are in a physical or mental abuse, you have the right to remove yourself from it. You have the right to create a safety plan. And over the course of 5 years, I created a safety plan. And that safety plan fell through on me, not by me, but by others. And I had to figure out what to do, create another safety plan, go back to my first source, my first resource, my relationship with God, which helped me return my relationship to myself. So in 12/18/2022 to March 2023, I fled back home to Florida. I was like, okay, this relationship is not working for me. Things are not working out. So what did I do? I fled back home. I think that's about 3 or 4 or 5 months now for sure, because I was so my mind was just heartbroken, constantly trying to figure things out. So I went back to Florida 12/8/2022 to March of 2023. And when I went back, I signed my kids up for school. I went to local community agencies asking for assistance, telling them my story. You know, this is my safety plan I put in place for me and my children. This is what's happening. This is what I need to do. I instantly started looking for work. I instantly went to go do what I need to do to separate myself from the current relationship I was in. And just when I thought that, okay, this is going well, this is going on track, the very person that said, come live with her so you can start your life over, you can get on track or whatever you're trying to do. My mother had me to, I agreed with her, and she agreed with me to come live with her. I told her everything that was happening. And in my past, my mom and I have not had the best relationship, so that was my opportunity to also say, you know what, this would be an opportunity for a better relationship. Well, at this time, between 12/8/2022 and March of 2023, my son Elijah's stomach was under attack. He had to go to the hospital. So spiritually being attacked. My son's physical health. My daughter had an asthma attack. I still was trying to look for jobs. I still was trying to get resources and get back on my feet. Get back in here. When I did all these things, I was faced with illusions, lies, rumors. I couldn't understand why everything I planned was falling apart. Went to my mom's, and from a small disagreement, kicked me right out of her house. And once people tell me something, I don't fight against it. She said, get out for a disagreement. I originally came to her home to start all over, to escape toxicity.